The views and opinions of the following show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of News Talk 1450 WOL, Radio 1 Incorporated, or their management.
Welcome to Beyond Just Talk. This is a positive, inspirational, and thought-provoking program that discusses life and business topics from a solution-oriented perspective with your host, S.L. Young.
All right, welcome. It's another great day, and we're ready to discuss subjects that will make a difference in your day. This is the place that people connect, ideas are shared, and lives are enriched. My name is Stacy Young. My author's name is S.L. Young, but please call me Sly. Before we get started today, next week, my guest is a dean of academia at a community college with over 20,000 students. This individual oversees strategic planning, enrollment management, space utilization, specialized degree programs, campus outreach, dual enrollments, evening administration, adjunct office, and the Center for Academic Assistance. So my guest next week is probably really busy all the time. For this week, we're going to do a recap of last week's show, visit with Angelo Ramirez and Sam Ashtar about the importance of mentoring, have a conversation with Nikeya Young, a multi-talented artist, and preview next week's guest. On last week's show, we had an action-packed hour. My first guest was Brashawn Shaw, an incredible woman with a wonderful spirit who happens to be a 2-time breast cancer survivor, including one of these times being diagnosed at stage 4. But most importantly, she's a warrior. Ms. Shaw wants to inspire women to have self-love, not struggle alone, and create a support system. She also wants women to know that you are a warrior. Last weekend, she kicked off the first stop on the I Am a Warrior tour. I didn't attend this event, but my sister Joyce and a close family friend, Ivy, did. Both of them were excited about the information learned, received a lot of good takeaways, had plenty of opportunities to network, and felt that it was a very good use of their time. If you're interested in the I Am a Warrior tour and future locations, go to IamAwarrior.com. My other guests were the husband and wife dynamic duo of Lisa Nani Messagey and Todd Messagey, who are multi-platform writers for stage and screen, mentors and screenwriters of a $1.6 million made-for-television movie, Romantically Speaking. The Messageys shared their personal stories about their educational challenges and the reasons behind their passion for writing. Lisa discovered her theatrical passion early in her life while performing in high school theater productions. Then she expanded her love of the theater by becoming well-versed in many different theatrical roles on stage and behind the scenes in college. Todd's writing skills were misjudged in high school as being potentially plagiarized due to its maturity, but fortunately were correctly identified as a talent in college by one of his professors. The Messageys were both mediocre students, but each of them either self-identified or had someone who identified their talents, which drove them to fulfill their passions and make their dreams a reality. The constant message that the Messageys have is that both of them took chances. They leveraged their experiences and considered every opportunity, no matter the size, to forge a path for their collective writing success. If you missed our conversation, you can listen to it on my website at slyoung.com/bjt-radio.html. Before we continue on today's show, I want to share with you a very unlikely experience that I had last Friday, which was to deliver a commencement address. This was an unlikely experience because of the numerous academic challenges that I had to achieve my level of success. And trust me, it was a very long journey. In spite of these challenges, I turned things around to eventually earn several degrees and become a college professor and accomplished a lot more. Although one of my biggest accomplishments was to become a Dreamcatcher's mentor to a very special young man, Angelo Ramirez. Given my long road to academic success, it was very emotional to go back to the same school district that directed me to leave high school in the 10th grade to get a job without a diploma. Even more emotional was completing the circle of life to help guide a young man's life and also to have him graduate with me being the commencement speaker. Mentoring is something that's very, very important, and to be able to give back and to watch somebody else achieve their goals as they move forward on their life's paths is something that's really rewarding. And another young man who is actually in studio with me today is Sam Ashtar. Sam and I are taking a recording technology class together, and Sam is interested in becoming a rapper one day and asked me lots of questions about career planning. Not about rapping, that is. I don't rap. So welcome to Beyond Just Talk, Sam. What are you working on right now? Why are you taking this recording technology class?
Thank you, Sly. I'm taking this recording class today because I want to learn how to use Pro Tools, which is a musical creation software that'll help me in my endeavors to becoming a rapper. I've been very passionate about music, and I've been always too afraid to take it until you came along and really instilled some confidence within me.
Yeah, I mean, we've had several conversations during the time that we've been taking this class together. So, there's a lot of folks out there that might be hesitant about telling someone about their dreams or wanting to have a mentor. So, why weren't you hesitant to do that, and why is it important to have a mentor?
Because, I never really had confidence in my dream, even though I really wanted to chase it and I would do anything for it. When I try to tell it to you, you're kind of like my mentor, actually, because, I talked to you. You were one of the first people that I ever told about, me becoming, a rapper or an MC. And you saw right through me, you told me, why are you so afraid? Why aren't you unconfident? Be more assertive. And that really spoke to me. And I went home that day and I got right to it and never looked back.
Sometimes the hardest part is sharing your dream with someone else, because sometimes folks can be a dream killer. But, Rashawn McDonald told me several weeks ago, one, there's no dream, there's no plan in a dream. But he also said to me that your fear has to be, your dream has to be so much greater than your fear. And so being able to identify it, communicate it, and then tell as many people as possible, because you never know who might give you that next opportunity. Because had you not told me about the things that you're working on, you wouldn't be here today. So if someone was looking to find a mentor and want somebody to help guide them, why might mentoring be an important tool for success?
It's so important because when I met you, I wasn't in the right mindset for me to succeed. And here you came along telling me, I really needed to have confidence. And had I not, outspoken to you about it and you not giving me the extra confidence boost that I needed, I might have not been where I am today or where I'm going to go in the future. Same as when you talked to Todd last week and he told you about a professor telling him he had the guts, he had the writing ability to become a scriptwriter, and he didn't know that. And since the professor told him that, he started to pursue that, and he became very, very successful. And had he not had that person to tell him, he wouldn't have been where he is today.
Yeah, I mean, we had some great examples from the messages telling us about just all of their experiences and what the importance of having a mentor and the folks that help to guide them on their life's direction. And right now, I think we have a caller that's going to be on in just a second. If you just bear with me in just a moment, we can patch him in. I believe right now we have my mentee, Angelo Ramirez, dialing in right now. We're just going to patch him in just a moment. So, Sam, while we're waiting for Angelo to join the line, what are some of your future plans in terms of how are you going to achieve your dream? Because you've told me about some things that you're doing now to prepare yourself for your rapping career. So what are some of the things that you're doing?
So the rappers that I've studied, they always study their favorite rappers, and then they go on to studying their lyrics, flowing along with their rapping, and also annotating what they're saying and their metaphors and how to put it together. I've been studying them. I move on from Tupac to Biggie to Nas, you name it. I studied them, and we keep studying about these rappers, and soon enough, I'm going to be able to, be as good as them and then create my own creations.
Okay, great. So maybe we can patch over to Angelo now. Angelo, are you on the line?
Yeah, I'm on here.
Hey, Angelo, welcome to Beyond Just Talk. We were talking about mentoring and talking about graduation last week, and how proud I am of you and being able to accomplish your goal. How does it feel to have finished school and have graduated?
Oh, it's insane. I lived a life of like self-inflicting torment, I guess you could say. But when I graduated, I realized I made it. I just thought before coming to graduation, I thought it's just going to be another day. But the fact that I made it this far and I got past school and everything just sort of just blew me away, because I never realized that I can actually do it just by pushing myself.
Yeah, so once you actually graduated, I mean, did it feel the way that you imagined that it would feel when you walked across the stage and got that diploma?
It felt a lot better than what I imagined.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I never thought I could make it, and there I am walking across the stage getting my high school diploma,
Yeah, and I was very proud of you to see you walking across the stage and to share that moment with you. And you were in the audience, and I know as I was delivering my commencement address, I know I didn't want to look at you because I knew that it might get a little bit emotional for me. And so during my address, as you know, I got very emotional as I was about to share with the audience that my mentee, you, was about to graduate. So what were you thinking once you saw me getting so emotional?
I was getting emotional too. I almost started to cry. Like, I was telling my girlfriend afterwards, I'm like, that was like one of the best speeches. And she was like, I wanted to cry too. Like, I was really sad in a really, like, I guess I was crying in a happy mood because I was proud of myself and I was proud of just seeing you talk. And it was just one of the best speeches I've ever heard. And it was very emotional. And I'm sure it wasn't just emotional for me. It was emotional for my family. They told me they really loved your speech. And the fact that you said my name, it just really hit me. I don't know why. Like, you said my name and it really just hit me, and it felt really good.
Yeah, I didn't realize how hard that moment was going to be when I got to that part of my speech, and I was saying, a very special young man who's graduating here today. I didn't realize how emotional that was going to be, especially given my journey to come full circle with everything. And one of the things and that you participate in, and the reason that we met, is that you are involved with the Dreamcatchers Mentee Program. So, the Dreamcatcher Mentee Program is basically partnering high school students and working with them from high school to college to help them to achieve their path to success and to graduate from college. And so why is it that you decided to participate in that program?
Well, I just felt like I needed some help. I was already doing pretty well in school, but I feel like I needed some help to get myself through Nova and college, and sort of just give me the extra push that I need, go over the edge. And I tried out for Dreamcatchers because, like I said, I felt like I needed a little bit more help.
Yeah. And so what advice do you offer to a high school student who's struggling, who might not be sure if mentoring is right for them?
Well, for me, I wasn't so sure to begin with, but after a while I realized that I needed help because I needed someone there who was a friend to me to help me, like, sort of move through my life issues. So, like, you feel like you need help with anything. Like, you just need a friend to talk to or help in school. Having a mentor can give you advice to better your life.
Yeah. And what are your future plans?
Well, I am trying to graduate Nova right now and move on to UEA or DT to study engineering, mechanical or industrial, one of those two fields. All
right. Well, great. Thank you for joining us today, Angelo. Angelo's a very special young man who is not only my mentee, but he's now my family as well as a friend. And Sam Anshtar, thank you for being in studio with me today. Folks, we'll be right back right after the break.
News updates on the web at WOLDCnews.com.
Good morning. This WOL traffic update is brought to you by Arnold Bread on the outer loop of the Beltway at Ritchie Marlborough Road, actually at Central Avenue. It's the 2 left lanes closed now for the accident involving the overturned truck delays all the way back near Andrews Air Force Base near Allentown Road. Inner loop, the left lane was closed to respond to the incident. The inner loop is slow from before 202 to get past 214. Arnold Whole Grains Bread is packed with whole grains, giving you the whole grain nutrition you need and the taste you love. Arnold Whole Grains Bread packed with whole grains. Now your WOL weather forecast brought to you by TrueCar. For today, clouds and sun, scattered afternoon thunderstorms, a high near 92, partly cloudy overnight down to 71. Tomorrow, mostly sunny and a high near 87. TrueCar is the fun way to buy a new car and make sure you never overpay. TrueCar users save an average of over $3,000 off MSRP, save time, money, and never overpay. Download the TrueCar app today. Steve Hirschhorn for News Talk 1450 WOL, where information is power.
Welcome back to Beyond Just Talk with your host, S.L. Young.
All right, folks, welcome back to Beyond Just Talk with S.L. Young. Today, we've got a very exciting guest who's coming up in just a moment. Before we get to that, if you'd like to join the conversation, you can dial 1-800-450-7876. Prior to the break, we were talking about the importance of mentoring. And since we're talking about mentoring, I just wanted to describe some of the different types of mentoring that are available. So I think folks should have basically 4. There might be additional roles, but I think you should have a mentor for your life, someone who can help you to navigate this sometimes crazy world. You need a mentor for your profession, someone who can give you a broad perspective about your career field. You can have a mentor in your specialty, someone who is knowledgeable in your specific skill set, and then a mentor in the company that you work, someone who understands the organizational dynamics, whether it's the history, the politics, some hot buttons, or other issues. But one of the things I want to come back to is, if you'd like to read my commencement speech that I delivered last Friday, it's available on my website at slyoung.com and then /commencement 061215.html. You can also find it on my blog. Before I detail the topics for today and introduce my next guest, if you'd like to connect with me on the internet, you can go to my website at slyoung.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/beyondjusttalk, and you can locate me on Twitter, Google+, Instagram, and SoundCloud using the handle SLYOUNGVA. As for today's show, we'll discuss the journey my next guest took, not only to achieve a dream, but several dreams. My guest's path to get cast in Hollywood productions, methods to create your own musical expressions, and the importance of exercise to maintain mental, physical, and emotional balance. Without further ado, let me introduce today's guest. My guest today, Nikeya Young, has had a desire for an artistic outlet throughout her life, which led this multi-talented artist to pursue an acting and music career. Mrs. Young has also worked as an on-camera talent and lifestyle print model for recognized brands, including United Airlines, Country Financial, YMCA, Memorial Hospital, Walgreens, Kellogg's, and Kohl's. In December 2014, she earned her primary group fitness certification from the Aerobics and Fitness Association of America. She is a Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists member. And furthermore, Ms. Young holds additional certifications in Zumba, Jillian Michaels Body Shred, and X-Sport Fitness Core Fit. Now, I welcome my guest, who is an actress, singer, songwriter, model, writer, motivational speaker, former beauty queen, and certified group fitness instructor. This individual has appeared on numerous media outlets, been seen on NBC's Chicago Fire, and had the lead role in TV One's Finding Our Missing, the Tamika Anderson story, and recorded edgier hip-hop, pop, and R&B sounds that captivate listeners, which earned her a Chicago Gospel Music Award nomination for the Contemporary Female Vocalist of the Year. Mrs. Nikeya Young, welcome to Beyond Just Talk.
Hi. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have you on.
I'm glad to be here.
You're great. So let's start with learning a little bit about Nikeya Young from herself. So who is Nikeya Young?
Well, Nikeya Young, born Nikeya Green, is just a small town girl from Oklahoma who grew up in the projects, who by all accounts should not be where she is today, but God. I always wanted to sing and dance and act and entertain, and the journey to get from Tulsa, Oklahoma to Chicago, Illinois to do that has been nothing short of the glory of God. So, yeah, basically, I'm everything that you just said, but first and foremost, I am Martha and Floyd Green's daughter and a child of the Most High.
All right. And so what developed first, your acting skills or your singing abilities?
Singing, definitely. Singing was something that I probably just as soon as I could formulate words just started doing. And I was definitely one of those children who performed everywhere. I was one of those children that, I wrote a song, you want to hear it? Here it go. And just bust out singing,
right.
Like whether you said you wanted to hear it or not, like I was already into my song. So I was always very artsy in that way.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So did your parents recognize your talents early on, at least as it relates to singing?
Yeah, definitely. And singing is something that runs in my family, on my mother's side of the family specifically. My mother had a beautiful voice. She was very shy. She did not like to sing in front of people. Mm-hmm. But she had an amazing voice. She would sing in the church choir, and that's about it. All of my aunties and most of my cousins can sing, and so we're a very musical family in that aspect.
Well, it sounds like you didn't have any fears about performing in front of folks from a very young age.
Well, yeah, I learned fear as I got older. Children are fearless. Fear is something that I picked up later and had to overcome stage fright and all of that during, my high school years.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, not just fear, but a lot of things that children learn if they're not in the right environments or having a supportive environment. So that's why we have to be very careful about the environments that we have our children in, right?
Yes, definitely.
And then, so did anyone try to push you more towards one versus the other in terms of acting versus singing?
No, not really. Growing up, we didn't really have a lot of money. So even though my mom recognized the gift early, it wasn't like, okay, we're going to get you in lessons and all of this other, because there just wasn't money for that.
Right.
So the only thing she knew to do, she was a Sunday school teacher, was to get me involved in church.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what she did. So I pretty much, the church growing up, was very instrumental in nurturing my gifts and developing my talent because, that was pretty much all I could do. I did praise bands, any kind of play, church plays, I would do those, singing solos. And so all of that was nurtured in the church.
Right. So, there's a lot of folks, some famous ones that we know of that have come up through the church and helped them to develop their talent, because the church can be a powerful place to develop a lot of different skills, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And then, so you said that you were singing from a young age and maybe you were doing some acting as well. So these are all part of your God-given gifts and passions?
Yes.
And then, so you also are involved in modeling. So when did that start?
Modeling, everything kind of took off for me in terms of me making my official, okay, I'm going to go for this, no more excuses journey in 2008. And so basically I was sitting, making my New Year's resolutions, and I said, what's something I've always wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I've always wanted to do a lot of things, but it was just kind of like I sat and I had a come to Jesus moment with myself, and it's just like, okay, Nikeya, really, why aren't you doing any of this? And so I started with modeling because I figured that would be the easiest. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But I sat down and I had months prior been to a African Caribbean Fest here in Chicago. It's really big. They have it every summer. Mm-hmm. And when I was there, I met a photographer. He gave me his card. He had his work up in his little booth, and it was awesome. He took awesome pictures. And so when I was waiting for New Year's Eve, I said, I'm going to go and I'm going to take some pictures. I'm just going to start. Mm-hmm. I may not have all the pieces together, but I'm just going to just dip my toe out there. And I made an appointment with him, called him up, made an appointment. I paid my deposit, and so after that, it's real because you can't get your money back. It's canceled.
Right.
And I took the pictures. It was very, I got someone to do my hair. I did my own makeup, got me a little cute outfit from Ashley Stewart. Shout out to Ashley Stewart, who's been keeping curvy girls fly for decades. But yeah, and I took my pictures, and then I just I did beauty pageants. Like my first beauty pageant was when I was 18 in Tulsa. And like most people, I went away to college and gained weight. So I was like, well, I'm not, the small little swimsuit model size I was during my last pageant. But I still wanted to do pageants. Mm-hmm. And I said, I wonder if they have a pageant for plus size women. I'm curious about that. So I was at my computer Googling, and I came across the Miss Plus America pageant system, and I was just floored. I could not believe I had never heard of this before. And my state, I looked on how to apply state by state. Some of the states back then had directors, and some of them didn't. Illinois was a state without a director, and mm-hmm. so it was basically if your state doesn't have a director, you just apply, send some pictures, send your application, and if it's approved, then you'll be able to hold the title for your state. So, of course, I had fabulous new pictures now, and I sent them in, and I stayed up really way later than I should have because I was still working back then. And I got it in, and I was approved, and I became Miss Illinois Plus America and represented the state of Illinois in the national pageant and got 4th place. So that's kind of where all of the modeling kicked off. I did a lot of fashion shows after that.
Well, there's a few things that I heard in your story there. I mean, one of the things is you pushed yourself past your fear. And I think you sort of touched on this just real briefly, but how did you push yourself past your fear?
You know what? The best way I can describe it is, just meditating on the Word of God and just really studying. As you can tell, my faith is very important to me. So, shout out to my pastor, Dr. Bill Winston. But yeah, it was pretty much like, what does the Word of God say about you? And either you're going to believe that or not. And one of my favorite scriptures is Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So if there were times where I was just like, I can't do this, what am I doing? And I would just stop and I would just remind myself, yes, you can, you can do this. Because there's never going to be a perfect time. A lot of times we try to wait, like, oh, well, when I do this, or, oh, when I get down to this size, or, oh, when I get X amount of money, there's always going to be something to kind of keep you from doing what you want to do. So I just kind of jumped out there. And once I did, it was just like God met me where I was, and doors just started opening. Like that first year, 2008, was crazy in terms of everything that I did. Like by the end of that year, I had not only done the pageant, I had done like 20 fashion shows and a play.
So a lot. I mean, but you were going out there and trying these things over and over again, which leads to additional successes, right?
Exactly, because you meet people and you network, and those people lead you to other people, and then it just snowballs.
And, one of the things that I heard you say is, you're strong in your faith, but also your belief. And then you also made a choice to take a chance. And then you went out there and you not only waited for opportunities, you created your own opportunity so that you could make sure that you created the dream or fulfilled the dream that you wanted, versus the ones that might have come to you, which might not always be the best ones just because that particular door is open.
Exactly. Definitely learning to create opportunities for yourself is a must if you're going to be in the entertainment business.
All right. Well, that's a great place to take a break, and we'll catch up after the break on the other side.
News updates on the web at WOLDCnews.com.
This report brought to you by LifeLock. Do you bank online? Use public Wi-Fi? Your identity could be at risk. Help protect it with the best. LifeLock. Go to LifeLock.com and use promo code 15 for a special 15% discount. Driving in Maryland is about to get cheaper. Governor Hogan says it's about time.
I've been saying, that we've been overcharging people for too long, and people seem to be pretty excited about it. $260 million worth of tax relief, and those tolls are like a regressive tax that hurt people at the lowest end of the income scale the most, so we're happy to do it.
The Maryland Transportation Authority says tolls will be reduced and discounts given for Easy Pass starting July 1st. A D.C. hit and run as a child in the hospital with serious injuries. The boy, who was on a bike heading to school yesterday morning, is expected to survive. And police are searching for a blue van that hit the 13-year-old in Southeast at Nicholson and Prout Streets, then kept on going. D.C. officials say they're pursuing a new drug policy.
The top 3 drugs, PCP, synthetic drugs, and MDMA and other synthetics are being networked in nightlife areas. And we're going to go after those aggressively. We're going to go after the supply. Police Chief Kathy Lanier says stores caught selling synthetic drugs will be fined and closed for 96 hours for a first offense. Tampa Bay beat the Nationals 6-1. Baltimore over Philadelphia 4-0. Shortstop J.J. Hardy.
I feel like we're coming together as a team. We're doing more things right together versus, maybe one night pitching good and not hitting, or one night hitting and not pitching good. It's just it's starting to come together for us, and there's still a lot of room for improvement, but we're getting better.
Matt Wieters with a 3-run home run in the victory over the Phillies. The Phils have lost 7 straight. This report brought to you by Preparation H, medicated wipes for women infused with refreshing cucumber, chamomile, and aloe. Use as directed. I'm John Lewis. When you're looking for news from Black America, go to news1.com.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM.
Welcome back to Beyond Just Talk with your host, S.L. Young.
All right, folks, welcome back to Beyond Just Talk. If you'd like to join the conversation, you can dial in at 1-800-450-7876. We're talking with our guest today, Nikeya Young. And prior to the break, we were talking about her experiences as an actor and a beauty queen. And the other thing that you do is you sing a lot, and so you record a lot of different types of music. So tell us about your musical talents and the type of music that we can listen to from you.
Oh, okay, awesome. Well, my music it's Christian music, but it's definitely influenced by all the music that I grew up listening to. And so I grew up in the projects, so I love hip-hop. I love house music. I love pop music. I love R&B music. And so I don't think that all of those styles of music are off limits to people who have a Christian message. God invented music. So, so my album, Victorious One, it's available on Google Play, iTunes, and Amazon. It has all of those elements in it. And it's definitely edgy, but the faith message is there. And it's awesome. It was produced by my amazing husband, Rodney Young, and we executive produced the album together.
Okay, great. And before we go on, why don't we listen to, in a moment, we'll listen to some of your music, because you've provided us with a sample of 2 songs, and we might be able to get to one of them in just a moment. So before we continue on, acting has been your big thing, music's been your big thing. In terms of your acting abilities, when did you start acting, and when did you get your first break?
My first big acting thing, I would say, happened in 2008. I started with plays because I wasn't agency signed until 2011. And for those of you guys who are out there who know about the business, how you get out there in terms of commercials and television and film, the casting directors, they go through agencies, through talent agents. And so if you're not agency signed, it's much, much harder, very, very difficult for you to get seen by a casting director most times. So before I became agency signed, I did plays in the Chicagoland area, like inspirational stage plays. My first one was called The Wedding here in Chicago, and it was directed by LaTanya McGahee. And that kind of led to another play in 2010, and both plays were well received. Like all the plays that I was involved in were sold out plays, and that was very good to just kind of get that on stage experience. I actually miss doing theater and plays, so I'm going to try to see if I can circle back to it eventually. But yeah, so that was kind of how I started. And then when I got agency signed, the first thing that made me SAG eligible, I think I did like a commercial, like an industrial. And industrials are pretty much like you work with the brands and you do, it's a commercial, but it's like for internal use. And so those pay, you know, they still pay. So nobody's like, oh, it's not going to air. No one's going to see it, so it doesn't matter. No, you get your check and you're very happy with your check. So I did a SAG industrial working with Kellogg's, and that made me SAG eligible. And so when you're eligible, you're not in the union yet, but you're eligible to join at that time if you want.
What's the difference?
The difference?
Yeah.
Basically, for my market, I'm in Chicago, and so the Midwest tends to be a very non-union town. So there's union work within the Screen Actors Guild, and then there's non-union work. There's still like little commercial parts that you can get in print and things of that nature. Print is not covered under any union, so I can still do print even though I'm in the union. But basically, union gigs pay more. Typically, it's a union, so they're going to make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to get. A lot of people choose to not join the union in the Midwest just because there tends to be more non-union work than union work. So it's kind of this conversation, like, should I join the union? Should I not? So I didn't join at that time because I wanted to be able to, still do non-union work.
So it's not mandatory that you join?
Not initially. It's after your first, I think after two union gigs, like after your second one, you're a must join. So must join is basically you cannot do any more SAG work unless you join the union.
Okay.
So what happened was the following year in 2012, in season 1, I landed a principal role on Chicago Fire, playing a nurse, and I had a speaking part. So after that, I was a must join. And so when the Country Financial national commercial came up, and I auditioned and I got the part and everything, like my agency called back and was like, "Whoa, Nikeya, like, you've already done 2 union things, and so they're saying, like, you have to join the union. Like, if you don't join the union, they're not going to be able to keep you on this commercial. They're going to have to go with somebody else."
So they sort of forced your hand.
I was like, okay, great. That's fine. I have no problem with it, because now it's pretty much, it's a good time to be an actor or an actress in Chicago. What has happened is that Hollywood has come to us, and there are so many shows filming here. Empire films here, Chicago Fire films here, Chicago PD films here, and Chicago Med is a new show that's a spinoff of Fire and PD, and it's going to be starting. So that's filming here too. We had Shameless filming here, like so many shows. And so a lot of people who felt like they had to leave Chicago and move to New York or LA are now like, maybe I need to go back home to Chicago because it's popping here.
Yeah. And, one of the things I've heard recently is that Hollywood is moving out of Hollywood and starting to hit some of the other cities like Atlanta, Chicago, DC, New York, a lot more frequently than they had in the past.
Yeah, a lot of cities are doing tax credit initiatives to kind of lure Hollywood directors to their cities. So our Chicago was definitely one of those cities, and Illinois was one of those states. Governor Quinn was very supportive of the tax incentives. We're all kind of praying for our current governor, Governor Rauner, because we're getting nervous because he's kind of trying to mess with the tax credit a little, and we're all like, no. We need Hollywood to stay.
Don't touch my money.
Don't touch my money.
All right, so let's take a little bit of shift in our conversation. One of your biggest roles you had was playing Tamika Anderson, who goes by Kesha, who was a 25-year-old at the time that she went missing on February 23rd, 2010, after reportedly withdrawing money from her bank account. How did you earn the role as Tamika Anderson?
That role was before I joined the union. I was eligible at that point, and it was a non-union job. But basically, Find Our Missing, they taped a lot in Chicago. And, excuse me, one of my friends, Kathleen Owens, we call her Kat, so shout out to Kat, she inboxed me and she said they're looking for people to do these reenactments. So they film a reenactment of everything that was happening around the time the person goes missing. And she said, I think you might be good for this. Can I give them your info? And I said, sure. So, I kind of got on board that way. And I got the part and ended up just going and filming different scenes, reenacting everything that was happening. It was a very bittersweet experience because on the one hand, I was getting to do something that I love. I love being on set and acting. And but on the other hand, it was just like I never could forget why I was there. This wasn't just a typical acting opportunity. Like I was reenacting something that actually happened.
Someone's
and this
life.
Young lady she's still missing today.
Right.
No one ever saw her again.
Right. And then how did you prepare for this role?
Well, they kind of just gave me the background information before I went in to set. And, of course I got on the internet and I poured through all the articles about her and everything and just kind of, different things her family said about her, what kind of person she was.
Hopefully still is.
Yeah, so that just pretty much helped me prepare. There wasn't a lot of time because it's a very quick shoot, but I got in there and I did the best that I could and it turned out great. But I was just it took me about a month to kind of get past that role, if that makes sense. It was just very heavy.
I can imagine.
I was just trying to solve the case. I was just praying someone's going to see this and someone's going to come forward with information about where she is, because it was just heartbreaking to me. She left 2 small children behind, and basically she went to buy a car from someone that she met at a casino or something. and was never seen again.
Right, and she actually had conversations with folks, it's reported, along the way, and the last time that she was heard from was making a call right before she was supposed to meet up with someone to purchase that car.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was just definitely a cautionary tale, don't go and buy things like that.
Or meet strangers alone.
As a woman, meet a stranger alone, There was a story this summer about a couple, kind of an elderly couple, Caucasian couple that went to go purchase a car from somebody on Craigslist, and they were murdered.
Yeah, and I think that was outside of the D.C. area. But before we go too far away from this, you said that it took you a while to get past this, but how did this role affect you personally?
I mean, I think when she went missing, she was probably about 25 or so. And that wasn't that long ago for me. Yeah. I'm 34 now. And I just kind of think of just kind of the things that, we do as 20-somethings or young people. We just kind of think we're invincible, and we just kind of take things for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, going and live tweeting with people as we're watching it, or, everyone is just like, oh, my God, that's so stupid. Why would she do that? And it's just like everyone is so quick to judge. And it's just like, okay, well, think back to when you were young and you did things that you shouldn't have done. But that didn't mean you deserved to die because of it, or just like go missing and your family never hear from you again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And real quick, what was one of the main lessons that you took away?
Basically, from the whole experience is just forgetting the opportunity just to be ready. It helps if you're ready to go and you don't have to get ready when the opportunity knocks. And then just in terms of the lesson I learned from her family and their whole experience is just to always use wisdom.
All right, and we've got to get ready to go to a break, but before we do, I want everyone to know that Tamika Anderson is still missing as of 2/11/13, as reported on TV1's website. Anderson is described as a black female, 5'1", 150 pounds, with black hair and hazel eyes. She has several tattoos on her upper right arm and neck. Anyone with information about her whereabouts should contact the Baton Rouge Police Department at 225-389-2000, and we'll be back right after the break.
1450 WOL.
Good morning. It's WOL Traffic Update is brought to you by Centrum Gummies. On the outer loop, we still have the accident involving the truck that overturned. It's back on its wheels now. We're attached to a tow truck. Hopefully everything will be open pretty soon. But in the meantime, it's still two right lanes getting by on the outer loop of the Beltway at Central Avenue, Route 214, with delays now from Allentown Road. Inner loop, response in the left lane, slowing you down from Marina Drive. Introducing Centrum Multi Gummies, a complete and tasty way to support the most important parts of you. Centrum Multi Gummies, see gummies in a whole new light. Now your WOL weather forecast brought to you by your local Nissan dealer. Clouds and sun, scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, a high in the low to mid-90s. Partly cloudy overnight down to 71. Tomorrow sunny and not quite as hot, a high near 87. Make every ride the ride of your life at Nissan. Exciting performance, surprising offer. Shop at your local Nissan store and choose Nissan.com today. Hurry. Offer ends soon. Steve Hirschhorn for News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
News Talk 1450 WOL.
Welcome back to Beyond Just Talk with your host, S.L. Young.
All right, folks, welcome back. We're having a great conversation with my guest today, Nikeya Young. And just one more reminder, if you'd like to join the conversation, you can dial in at 1-800-450-7876. And before we continue on, maybe we can get a little selection of Nikeya's music in just a moment.
To TV screens, to owning the magazines, to running the model scene. Check the runway I walk, 'cause we on it. Got king and swag, we on it. We never stop taking dominion, taking dominion. We on it. Athletes to CEOs, to ruling the radio. We healing and saving souls, full of the Holy Ghost. We on it. Got king and swag, we on it. Always on top, taking dominion, taking dominion. We not taking second place, 'cause we here to dominate. So devil, get out the way. It's over for you and your minions. Taking dominion.
All right, that was a great little sample of one of Nikeya's song. I'm sitting here jamming in the studio, enjoying that one.
Thank you.
All right, and so in terms of your musical talent, how did you get your first break?
Well, I married my producer. We joke about that all the time. But no, I started singing, in high school. I always sang in the choir. I always grew up singing in choirs. I always wrote songs, but in terms of when I actually started to branch out there, I did some background vocals for the Happiness Club, and then I started writing music like in the early 2000s. Mm-hmm. I did some background vocals for different people. There's another gospel artist, Jason Shepard. He's from Houston, Texas, really from Chicago, lives in Houston now. I did background vocals on his project, very talented gospel artist. And then, I just kind of began thinking about my own work. Obviously, my husband is biased. Like, I started singing first. He fell in love with my voice, and he's just always like, yeah, all this modeling and acting stuff is cute, but when are you going to get to the music? So he kind of held my feet to the fire to do that, and always encouraged me to work on my music. And even now, it's just like, all right, so we're going to do some music, right?
Right. And so what was your first major performance?
My first major performance, I would say it was being on the live recording with Jason Shepard and his group, because, that was like a live project. So that was kind of, even though I didn't have a solo, that was a big deal. Mm-hmm. But in 2008, when I did the pageant, I did a original song because there's a talent competition. So I wanted to enter that. And the song is called Who Are They Anyway? And it was just basically encouraging young women who are discriminated against because of size or feel like they have to be a size 2 to be beautiful, to stop obsessing with, the world's image of true beauty and, be confident in who God made you to be. Yeah,
because beauty's at every size, right?
Yes, it is, and it makes me really upset when I see size discrimination.
Or how about discrimination at all anywhere?
Yes, period. Right. And it's like, for some reason, it's like everyone thinks discrimination is wrong, but when it comes to people of size, it's acceptable. And of course it's not. But yeah, so I got to do my original music in the talent portion, and I won the talent competition. And so that was really awesome, just getting to perform original music in front of an audience and, kind of take it from there.
Yeah, just taking a step back to something that you said, sometimes folks will feel that it's okay to discriminate, but it's interesting how often folks will discriminate when it doesn't affect them personally.
Exactly.
And then when it hits close to home, then their viewpoints tend to change sometimes, right?
Yeah.
All right. So, one of the things that, I said earlier in the show was that you were nominated for Contemporary Female Artist of the Year by the Chicago Gospel Music Awards. And so where were you at the time that you learned of your nomination? And how did you feel?
Oh, it was awesome. It was basically like how they did the Gospel Awards here. It's the local, Chicago Gospel Music Awards. And you could be nominated by somebody. You had to have a project out, between the top of 2013 and the end of 2013 or something, because the awards were in 2014. And so my album was released on May 28th of 2013, so I qualified that way. And I had done a lot of local performances around, the city, and it was definitely very exciting, to learn that we had been nominated. But it was just like, everything was put to a vote. So after you were nominated, people got to go online and vote for you, and the person, with the most votes would get it. Well, I was in the category with a Motown recording artist. Maybe you guys have heard of her, Anita Wilson.
No name dropping, huh?
And I was like, yeah. They put me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in the category with Anita Wilson. Like, okay, well, whether I win or lose, I'm already winning just because I'm in her category.
Yeah, and that's great. And we're starting to run out of time for today's show. But did this nomination change the direction of your music career?
It didn't really change the direction. It was pretty much just confirmation to me to keep going. And so that's what it mainly was. I wasn't looking at it as like, oh, now this is going to be my big break. But it definitely feels good to have your efforts recognized. But it was just confirmation that, this is God. You're doing the right thing. Just keep going.
And just real quick, we're going to do a quick sample of another one of your songs.
Okay.
All right, another song that I'm sitting here grooving to in the studio. Really, really enjoying your music. So thanks for sharing that with us. And we're almost out of time. So what about some of your upcoming projects that you want to share with us?
Oh, I'm very excited. I'm in the process of brand building and launching a brand called Virtue Chic. It's basically combining everything that I love doing, but, you know, letting people know that being virtuous can be popular, you know. I don't have kids yet, but when I do, I don't want them wearing some of the crazy stuff that's out. I don't want them thinking being a mean girl is cool because they saw it on Ratchet TV. You know,
too much Ratchet TV, right?
Yes, too much Ratchet TV. You know, I grew up on Cosby Show in a different world, so you know, just kind of bringing being virtuous as a woman back to the forefront, but in a hip and fresh way. So it's pretty much going to be a blog and a movement. There's going to be music to it. There's going to be a whole lot happening with it. So I'm developing that now and hoping to launch it by the end of this year.
All right. Well, good luck with that. Anything on the acting or music side?
On the music side, pretty much just working on the EP that's going to accompany Virtue Chic. I have several speaking engagements and singing engagements lined up for the summer. On the acting is wait and see, as always. So I have plenty to keep me busy until my phone rings for that.
Right. Isn't it always the case? Hurry up and wait.
Yes, that is the business.
Hurry up, get ready, but wait for the opportunity to come. And then, so is there like one or two lessons that you'd like to leave my audience with today?
Yes, definitely. Another one of my favorite scriptures is Proverbs 23:7 that basically says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. A plain English way of putting that is whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and that's the case most of the time. You know, the hardest part is getting out of our own way.
Yep.
And one of the things that I always like to tell folks, and, you know, and this is based on my personal experiences, is that a lot of folks are afraid of being put in jail, but we often lock ourselves up in our own minds.
Exactly.
So we've just got to get out of our way and then figure out what is it that we want to do. And as you've demonstrated throughout our conversation, you just took some chances and looked for the opportunities that were right for you, and you did them on your terms. And that says a lot about you and your strength of character and your courage to go after your dream. And that's just something that should be applauded. And I wish more folks would just push fear aside and understand that fear is really just an emotion. And once you deal with the emotions, it's just about fear. So we've got about 1 minute left. Any final thoughts that you'd like to leave us with? Well,
I didn't get to talk about the fitness part much, but so I'll touch on that in the last minute.
Well, you got about 20 seconds now.
20 seconds. As we're all like pursuing our dreams, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Make sure you're exercising and eating properly, right? Because you want to be here to live long enough to live your purpose out.
Right. And it's important to have all of that, to have a good balance mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Yes.
Well,
exactly.
Thank you very much for being on our show. I really enjoyed having you today. So good luck with your future career.
Thanks.
All right. So I hope that you enjoyed today's show. On next week's show, my guest will be Christine Holt, who is a wonderful person, a nurturing spirit, and the Dean of Academic Administration at the Northern Virginia Community College Annandale campus with over 20,000 students. Remember, your candle is fueled from within, so don't let anyone reduce or block the fuel to maximize its brightness. Enjoy the rest of your week. Until next time, my friends, have a good one.
1450 WOL.